Please take your seats. The session will begin in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. The session will begin in 1 minute. Please welcome to the stage Brandon Andrews.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to this innovative session. I love being in a space with people working on innovative approaches that not only drive revenue, but drive impact around the world. My name is Brandon Andrews. I'm CEO of The Inexorable. I'm also co-founder of Gauge, an AI-powered market research platform, and I've spent the past decade doing casting for Shark Tank and other business shows on television. Each year I get the privilege of meeting thousands of entrepreneurs around the world. I'm evaluating their companies and helping them get ready for their big moment on TV. And there are few business owners and organizational leaders that are having a big moment here on stage today. I'm always in awe of the passion, drive, and vision many entrepreneurs have to not just make money, but drive impact, to lift others out of poverty, and to do good. And the entrepreneurs I've met at CGI and those making commitments to action are no exception. Now, commitments to action are multi-layered, multifaceted, and sometimes even multilateral. CGI takes them very seriously, and for good reason. The rigor and metrics that are an important part of the process. However, a commitment to action is just that, a commitment to action. Take steps each day to make the important work you are doing move forward. I'm proud to be here to share how the following commitment makers are doing the work every day to drive a sustainable future. They are incredible and innovative leaders with game-changing ideas, yet too often they lack the support, capital, and networks to turn their ideas into action. Our first group of commitment makers are building supportive ecosystems for impact entrepreneurs to implement and scale their work. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Deepa Lounsbury from LabStart, Olga Diakova from Impact Force, and Lakeisha French Merritt from the Future in Color. I'll just tell you a little bit about the incredible work these leaders are doing. LabStart is committing to provide 75 entrepreneurs in the United States and Mexico with funding, capacity development, and mentorship to drive climate innovation and facilitate the launch of 24 climate tech startups by March 2028. Over 10 years, this will create approximately 960 new green jobs. You can clap for that. Entrepreneurs in the fellowship program will receive support navigating the lab to market commercialization process to turn transformative intellectual property into actionable initiatives. The climate solutions of tomorrow are out there. LabStart Fellowship provides talented innovators and entrepreneurs with the time and resources needed to accelerate their implementation. Next is Impact Force. Impact Force is committing to support more than 1,000 Ukrainians with job training opportunities while helping to establish 250 new impact-driven small and medium-sized impact enterprises with high job growth potential by the end of 2029. Focusing on women, veterans, and displaced persons, the Impact Business Accelerator will provide entrepreneurs with business education, mentorship, and dedicated training to scale their enterprises and prepare for participation in the EU market. Ukraine's inclusive economic recovery and resilience starts with Ukrainians and their unique local perspectives, and the Impact Business Accelerator will create the enabling environment they need while driving investment that's good for the global economy. And last, the Future of Color Institute is back at CGI reporting progress on its commitment to action with the launch of the Future Economy Action Tank and its flagship initiative, Project GDPX, a next-generation measure of economic health for the age of AI, powered by a dashboard that turns data into predictive insights for growth. Its first application focuses on the global Black economies whose historic and current contributions have fueled global prosperity without proportional return. GDPX makes these contributions visible, and through their entrepreneurial fellowship program, which is doubling in size this year, Future in Color Institute also makes these insights actionable, rapidly accelerating work to close racial wealth gaps and build supportive ecosystems for entrepreneurs on a path towards economic transformation. Give these commitment makers a round of applause. Okay, our next group of commitment makers are expanding skills, training, and development that leverages entrepreneurial pathways to create economic mobility. Please join me in welcoming Bayan Flomo Peewee, Kelly Shaughnessy, Linus Idahosa, Buddy Tester, Keturi Soni. These are incredible commitment makers, and we're excited to have them. Now I'll tell you a little bit about each of their organizations. YOCEL has seen great progress in the last year fostering economic growth across Liberia by supporting early-stage entrepreneurs through their John Freeman School of Entrepreneurship. YOCEL surpassed their original goal and will increase the number of young people receiving support developing their own micro and small enterprises through their Livelihood Accelerator program. YOCEL's success has even enabled them to award $50,000 in catalytic funding to women-led organizations to implement programs empowering young girls through entrepreneurship. YOCEL is committed to leveraging technology to reach even more entrepreneurs in the coming year. Give them a round of applause. Light Up Hope is committing to prepare 5,000 young women in Kenya for employment and entrepreneurship by 2030. Through a comprehensive professional development program that starts at university, students will be provided opportunities to connect with industry experts through on-campus, in-person seminars and online webinars, and engage in community-based projects and internships. These opportunities will provide the students with insight into market needs and assist them in identifying marketable skills to increase their employability at graduation. And for entrepreneurs, the program will offer financial and entrepreneurial training to equip them to create new income streams by linking them to opportunities within their communities. Incredible, incredible work. Del York Group is committing to tackle Africa's youth unemployment crisis and transform Africa's workforce development systems by launching Reskill Africa. The program will address the pervasive skills mismatch by equipping 1 million young people across Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya with the future-ready skills and entrepreneurial training they need to land jobs that support economic mobility. And to create more of these jobs, the Del York Group will invest $1 million to support 500 entrepreneurs to launch their enterprises and transform the African employment landscape. What a great commitment they're making. Since Souls for Souls announced their commitment to launch a $1 billion economic impact project last year, their For Opportunity program is now operating in Chile, Belize, the Dominican Republic, and the Philippines. The program's participants, most of whom are women, receive training to run their own micro businesses selling repurposed, gently used shoes and clothes. Through capacity building and technical assistance, Souls for Souls is creating sustainable incomes for entrepreneurs, giving them the opportunity to build generational wealth while reducing waste and promoting the circular economy. Great to have you back. Thank you for your work. Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator is committing to provide 18,000 young people in South Africa with the skills, training, market, and capital access and job placement to unlock economic opportunities and mobility. As South Africa's youth employment crisis grows, largely driven by the work readiness gap, Harambee will work with youth to prepare them for the workforce, including connections to jobs, workplace integration skills, and self-employment opportunities in high-growth sectors to encourage entrepreneurship. This means securing economic growth for both individuals and local economies across the country. Thank you all for your incredible work, both to the new commitment makers as well as the returning commitment makers. As I mentioned earlier, CGI takes these commitments to action incredibly seriously, and it's a testament to that work that we have so many returning commitment makers. I'll leave you with this. The tennis champion Arthur Ashe said, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." CGI is a great place to start. And what you have here is a community of leaders from across sectors and around the world with smart and exciting ideas for impact. I encourage you to take advantage of this time we have together and seek out new partners and new ideas, because that's one of the first steps to doing what we can. And remember that market factors, organizational shifts, and personnel changes will impact every commitment made, every one. But when these changes come, maintain your commitment to taking steps forward. These steps often lead to big wins. Thank you.
From Echoing Green, please welcome Cheryl Dorsey.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I love that. This is going to be a fabulous panel, and I'd like you all to help me please welcome to the stage two extraordinary CEOs. First, Sandra Chokwudose, CEO of Salfa Energy, and Salma Tamim, CEO of Remedy. Please welcome them. Bless you. You heard from my introduction that I'm representing Echoing Green this afternoon. We're an organization that supports social entrepreneurs and the broader field and ecosystem of social innovation. So I'm always pleased to be in the company of extraordinary social innovators with bold ideas, doing really important work in the world. I think you all know that the theme of this year's CGI is what's next. Well, social innovators like these two extraordinary women here do know what's next because they're doing it. And they really are emblematic of how next generation leadership is standing up to change some of the conditions that we all confront in this moment, from climate and health. And we're gonna have the opportunity to talk to them both. So I'm gonna start with you, Sandra, okay? So I learned some of these statistics in getting ready for this panel, that 600 million people across the African continent lack reliable access to electricity, let alone access to clean energy. And you thus founded Salfa Energy with the goal of bringing about, and I love this term, energy freedom. And you've already impacted over 2 million people with affordable off-grid solar home systems and generators. Can you tell us more about your solutions and then what sets it apart from other renewable energy projects that we might be familiar with?
Thank you, Cheryl. So when we think about energy access in Africa, like what Cheryl said, it's a statistics that hits you, 600 million people not having access to energy. And a lot of companies create the markets. They go out there, they want to deploy solutions as quickly as possible to close the gap. And they're training people, and that's very important. But what is actually happening when it comes to value capture is that the technology innovation itself is really not happening on the continent. It's happening offshore through foreign-owned supply chains. And what that means is that you're importing cost, and sometimes you're not able to provide quality products. And when I reflect on that, it's a disservice to Africa, because why at this point in time should we recycle the fossil fuel story? Minerals, oil in the ground, we export that, we beneficiate externally, and we import finished refined products. And when I sit here and I reflect, I mean, just across the river, Menlo Park, right, New Jersey, where 146 years ago, the incandescent light bulb was made. I'm asking myself, how the hell do over 500 million people not have access to energy? And what I'm pulling from that is just the ingenuity of Thomas Edison saying, you know what, we're gonna get a bunch of young people who have the energy, audacity, the passion to build something, to create something, and that's what Salfa is trying to do. Essentially, we want to reclaim the value chain. We want to say that the African story for clean energy should be us making ourselves move beyond this transactional way of Mickey Mouse business to saying, how do we do the technology transfer and champion local innovation? So my company set up assembly. We assemble, we design, we distribute at scale, and ultimately we're training young people who, ordinarily speaking, would be overlooked for high-skilled jobs, and we're giving them that dignity of being part of the clean energy transition. So that's a bit about us. Thank you.
That's great. Yes. Applause. Well deserved. Sandra, if you don't mind, can I ask you a quick follow-up question? You know, and I love the way you talked about your work because you came at it from a systems approach, understanding structurally what you're trying to build and overcome. But you also have a holistic approach where you have a financing element to the work that you do. Will you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so when we look at the continent, right, the biggest challenge has been that there's been a lot of macroeconomic shakeup. So I'll give, for example, in Nigeria, the largest markets with people who don't have access to electricity, about 80 million people. Over the last 80 years, we've had the currency devalue against the dollar by 80%. And that feels like a 50% tariff being slammed on homes, businesses, across energy, food, medicine. And so what Salva tried to do was really think about how do we provide access to energy and how do we position the sun as an investable asset class where we are convincing financiers to provide finance to customers to purchase solar at small instrumental payments to own the solution. And then the interesting thing is that when they begin to make repayments, we're building a financial record. And that financial record gives visibility to people who, ordinarily speaking, would be overlooked. They have credit visibility. And through the work that we do with our partners, we operate through 1,000 branches. We have over 6,000 financiers and sales agents across the country combing. And that has helped us really build and deploy to over 2 million people. And it's really important that when we look at financing, we must blend it in a way that is patient, but also very catalytical to really reach those who are furthest behind.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. And equally impressive is the work and leadership that Salma is doing as the founder of Remedy. She is a pharmacist turned professor who founded Remedy with a belief in a future where accurate diagnoses lead to swift recoveries. Couldn't agree more. The company develops diagnostic kits that allow for testing of nearly 50,000 patients each month. Wow. For Hep A, HIV, and other diseases. Similar question to Sandra. Tell us the context. Why was there a need for Remedy? How do you fit in within the larger ecosystem?
Thank you, Cheryl. So it's a very similar answer to what Sandra's actually given. So when it comes to diagnostics, the majority of the diagnostics on the continent, so I'm Egyptian, but not just in Egypt, in Africa, are also imported, which means that we get extra costs because of the shipping, the import, and the customs, but also the very long lead times that come with that. And we felt this during COVID. So during COVID, in Egypt, you couldn't really get tested for COVID up until the second half of 2020. And when testing was available, it was either super expensive on the private side or super crowded on the governmental side. So there was a need to it. But I think the most important thing is that Africa is just one example, I would say, of the global south, in which we are all using products that were developed for the global north's budgets and infrastructures. So these tests that are used for testing of HIV and tuberculosis come with a requirement of being refrigerator and hence cold chain. They come with a requirement of bulky equipment and constant electrical supply, which we've just learned is not the case, and also come with an initial high cost that also becomes even more expensive given the very lengthy supply chain. So the solution to that was local manufacturing and local development for local needs. So what we are doing at Remedy is we're actually taking the test that works perfectly, but making it work even better for our infrastructure. So our tests are room temperature stable. There is almost zero cold chain involved, which means that you can ship by land shipping. For instance, we now operate in Egypt, Sudan, and Kenya, and from Egypt, we ship by land shipping to Sudan. We also shorten the testing times by 3 times, which means that if you don't have constant electricity, you have a better chance of completing the test. And we're at least 6 times more affordable, which means that $1 goes a longer way. So if the government had $100,000 to test 10,000 people, they can now test 400,000 people.
It's really incredible. Yes, again, well worth the applause. And again, similar to Sandra, like really being quite clear about the structural barriers of cost and capacity. But in preparing for the panel, I was also struck by how you're navigating sort of the trust gap, where folks are used to global north products and you're changing that paradigm. How are you navigating this trust gap?
I honestly think this is the hardest part of the job. So it's not the development, it's not the operations, it's actually building this trust gap. So for this class of diagnostics, this has been mostly supplied to the continent using donor money. And of course, donor money is being reduced, but this is one side of the problem, is financing the tests. But the other side of the problem is what this has done to the mentality of the end user. So every single end user in Africa has become accustomed that credibility and value and efficiency is associated with the product that we can't afford and is usually given to us by donor money. So when you come in and you tell them this is an African product that was coming out of scientific and biotech research, the first thing that comes to mind, is it good enough? really? So this is a very big gap that we have to fill. And we also put on the table, yes, it is good enough, you can try it if you want, but it's also room temperature stable. I also solve a lot of your problems. So this is, I think, one of the biggest gaps that we have to fulfill. And if I'm allowed to close with something, so I completed my PhD in Germany, and had I stayed in Germany and developed a German product, which is great products, I'm not saying anything, I wouldn't have been facing this credibility gap. But the moment I walked back into Africa, I lost my entire credibility, but I'm the same person doing the same thing, it's just my zip code. So we have to start changing the narrative and developing local products for local problems.
That's beautiful. What a great call to action. That's right. Thank you. And the notion that proximity is excellence, right? And being close to your customer. And speaking of customers, as CEOs, I suppose you're only as happy as your customers are happy and satisfied. Sandra, I'm really curious from you, what are you hearing from Salfa's customers? What intel do you receive?
Okay, so similar to what Salma said, we spent the last 8 years deploying solar in markets where there has been no solar, very low penetration. And what is refreshing to hear is actually customers saying, we trust you. And what I love is the fact that our customers take action, whether it's them purchasing our products, scaling up, referring people, or even telling us how to innovate better. It makes a whole difference. And we're seeing clear demand signals from them. Over the past 4 years, our company has grown year on year by 100%. And for me, frankly speaking, beyond those numbers, what we're actually seeing is that people are saying different things depending on their journey. So whether it's people who need energy access for the first time, they're telling us, oh, wow, I finally have reliable energy, and it is me feeling like I belong into a new modern world. And when I reflect on that, going back to what I said about Thomas Edison, why do 500 million people and above that, why are they still waiting for lighting at that basic level? So it fuels my hunger to really go out there and deploy as quickly as possible. We have other customers who want reliability, and they're saying to us, listen, the grid, we're connected to it, but it's not stable, it's not reliable. We need something that actually gives us autonomy, right? And what is beautiful is that what is helping us achieve this is the fact that unit economics are more and more favorable. The cost structures are falling. Solar and battery are becoming affordable. And what that means is that clean energy is becoming the most affordable source. So we're having this beautiful thing where the self-interest of our customers, where they want affordable energy, is aligning with the planet's need for decarbonization. And so what we're seeing is that when you have that sort of strong alignment, this clean energy transition, no matter what anybody says, is really unstoppable. And what we're seeing is system-level change, whether it's access to energy or reliability. Everybody wants freedom, and that's what we're trying to build for our customers.
Beautiful. Energy freedom is good for people and planet. That's beautifully said. And this has been so inspiring for me, for sure. But you know, we exist in a larger context. It's a very difficult, challenging time for all of us. And we know certainly that your sector relies really heavily on PEPFAR and other global health funding that has just disappeared this year. So curious about what has been the impact of that withdrawal, and how are you hoping to fill some of those gaps?
So the withdrawal of programs such as PEPFAR is a devastating fact, because, I mean, it has left millions overnight without access to testing and to life-saving medications as well. But I think it's more of a wake-up call to African countries and other countries that are recipients of aid, that this is not a sustainable way of going forward, and the sustainable way of going forward is to create markets for actually local products that can fulfill these problems. So I would want to say that this is the time for us to step in and start filling in this gap. Yes, the funding is not there, but then when we offer an affordable solution, maybe whatever little funding is there can then still go a longer way. So it is a devastating fact, of course, but it's also a very strong wake-up call.
think that's a really wonderful way to look at it. And I'm looking at the clock. I could speak with you all day. There's so much to learn from you all and ask you all, but I would be remiss if I didn't sort of turn and ask you both a couple of questions about your own leadership and entrepreneurial journeys. There are a lot of people here who are entrepreneurs or who are curious, continuous learners. So I'm going to ask each of you, what do you think has been the key to your success? We know the record of startups that succeed versus those that don't. What made the difference for you? I'll go this way. Sam, I'll start with you.
I wanted to cheat. So I think for me, it was a bit challenging because I'm a scientist at heart, and transitioning from being a scientist to becoming, more of a person who is running a business is a very challenging transition, because you get to speak different languages and you get to see things that are beyond the scientific context of things. So I think incubators, acceleration programs go a long way in setting people up, in understanding how this transition is like. And also staying true to yourself and understanding that at the end of the day, I am a scientist. So in case I say something that sounds a bit funny to anyone from the business world, then I'm not flaunting my biotech words here.
How about you? How about you, Sandra?
I mean, for me, it's really just been discipline. Just realizing that, to be honest with you, 10 years ago, I started my career at the United Nations in New York. And it was 2015, the SDG goals were launched, and I had this fire in me to make a difference. I left that job, came back to Nigeria to really champion what I thought would look like the energy transition for young people. And when I reflect on where we are as a world, 360 million young Africans are going to need jobs in 10 years. 1 in 3 of them are suffering with mental health and depression. 3 in 5 may not have jobs. When I see those kind of forecasts, they fuel me up, because forecasts aren't destiny. It's a chance to really transform and make a dent on what it could look like. And so when I sit here and I imagine what the world would look like, I imagine a world where people are able to just have the dignity of work. And that inspires everything I do, down to the young people that I mentor. And I'm just really here to express and align with people who really believe in this as well. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that. We sadly only have about 20 seconds left, but I'm going to squeeze every second out of this panel with these 2 wonderful speakers. Just a quick piece of advice to folks who aspire to do what you do. What would you tell them quickly? I'll start with you, Sandra.
Be audacious. We are in a world where a lot of shifts are happening, macroeconomical, geopolitical, what have you. But you have to be persistent. You have to move, keep moving forward. And I think we heard from the president, and for me, just thinking about that, I just feel that it's hard. I come from a country where, ordinarily speaking, people aren't able to have a dignified life, work, or what have you. But you have to keep moving forward and make a dent. No matter where you are, local impact makes global impact. Thank you.
Salma, you close it out for us.
No, I think it's hard to get out of one's comfort zone, but if we just stay in our comfort zones, then we're not going anywhere. So I think my closing statement would be start. Yes, we think that we have to think and plan, and that's important, but we have to start. And when we start, we have to have the resilience to make it through.
Beautifully said. Excellent. Well, will you please join me in thanking these incredible CEOs, Sandra Chukwudose and Sama Tamim. Thank you both. Just incredible, incredible. Sorry, Seth. Sorry.
It's all a bunch of,
Yes, I sure take the one. Thank you so much. Got it. Yep. Oh, that's nice. Okay, sadly, you're stuck with me for a second panel, but the speakers are equally as fabulous as the last panel. So if you will help me again, welcome to the stage our second set of panelists, Marla Blow, CEO of the Skoll Foundation. Come on up. Marie-Lisa Dakane, President of the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. And last but not least, Shauna Young, CEO of Camelback Ventures. Okay. Woo. Okay, I'm so glad to be in conversation with you all. I'm excited to learn a ton from you all. It's going to be a hard act to follow. You just heard from those two extraordinary entrepreneurs who are really, as you can see, deeply committed to and passionate about solving some of the planet's most pressing challenges. But as you all know very well, no two entrepreneurs can solve these challenges alone. This is an ecosystem play, right? Which is why you all are here as key leaders in the space to create space for innovation. And that's why I'm excited to be speaking to you each with a slightly different perspective and what infrastructure do we need to really do this work at scale? So I'm going to ask each of you to first briefly, I mean, your biographies are bananas, but please keep it short and sweet and introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump in. And in addition to the introduction, please give us a bit about why you're so focused on entrepreneurship and social enterprises. Marla, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and it is a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you so much, and I think you get extra credit for staying all the way to the end, so bravo, well done. I am the CEO of the Skoll Foundation, where we work on social entrepreneurs solving the deeply entrenched problems around the world, and our effort really is a function of understanding that innovation and creativity is never in short supply, and that we are committed to doing the work to create space where that creativity and that capacity can really meet opportunity. And what I mean by that is capacity, talent, creativity is distributed everywhere. Opportunity tends to be concentrated in relatively few places. Creating the place for those two things to meet is how we unleash the impact and change that we need around the world. So Cheryl said to keep it short, so I'll stop there for now, but more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Lisa, how about you? Introduce yourself and tell us more about.
I'm the president of the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia, which is a consortium of social enterprises, resource institutions supporting social enterprises, and academic institutions in 12 countries in Asia. And the work we do is we create knowledge, we capacitate, as well as we set up platforms to build ecosystems for social entrepreneurship to flourish in Asia. And I think the reason why I'm very passionate about social entrepreneurship is because I believe in a region where poverty and inequality are stark realities, social enterprises are in a unique position to transform the lives of the poor and to also distribute wealth, you know. Businesses create wealth and accumulate wealth for owners of capital. But social enterprises create wealth and distribute that wealth to the poor who are their primary stakeholders. Thank you.
It's well said, well said. Shauna, the who, the what, and the why. Same question.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Again, Shauna Young, CEO of Camelback Ventures. We give early capital to entrepreneurs, primarily of color and women, who are innovating in education and in technology. And we recognize, as Marla shared, that there's lots of amazing entrepreneurs and people with incredible ideas, but the resources to actually bring those ideas to fruition are limited and concentrated. And so we are addressing the issue of early capital and friends and family round. Because if you don't have a start, if you start on a credit card with $20,000 or $5,000 and you're continuously underfunded, you cannot compete. And we really believe the good ideas come from all communities. And those who are living within their communities have the best ideas. So, 200 entrepreneurs later, 10 years later, we have moved $9 million. We have impacted, 5 million people around the country in particular. And we have changed lives from just giving that early capital.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to stick with you for a moment, if you don't mind, Shauna. Maybe tell us a little bit more in terms of data or numbers about the extent of these gaps, and then maybe give us one or two examples of those entrepreneurs that you have so beautifully supported along their journey.
Thank you so much. I mean, the extent is that the underfunding comes at all scales. So if you're starting as an entrepreneur of color or woman, typically you're starting your venture on credit card debt or small capital. When you go to your friends and family and try to raise, maybe you get $20,000, it's a large number, and your counterparts get $100,000 to $250,000. And so giving that $40,000 through our fellowship actually helps people get started beyond their minimum viable product and do a pilot. We also recognize that we are a nomenclator. We actually name people who have incredible ideas. And once that first check comes from us, like Echoing Green, then other people say, you know what, I think you have a really good idea. So just here in New York, we have Ruben, who co-founded Mercy Labs, which is an incredible way of helping young people who may not be able to go to college still get training over a year and go into a tech job. We also have Jessica Santana with America on Tech, who's working with young people from all communities, especially communities of color, from ages of 18 to 24, and helping them go into tech careers and working with corporate partners to do that. So they have created lots of jobs for their communities, and also helped them become people who have livable and amazing wages, and they put it back into their community. So what we think and learn is that when we invest in social entrepreneurs who are close to their community, they invest right back into their community. So that's when we talk about wealth building.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. I think I'm going to jump to you, Marla. You had an interesting trajectory. You were a for-profit entrepreneur trying to maximize financial return on investment. You sold your company and now have moved into this really interesting space in philanthropy. But you're very focused on balance sheet capital markets. Can you talk about that fusion and how you're thinking about it?
Absolutely, thank you. We really focus on bringing all the tools at our disposal to solve these problems at the foundation, grounded in, as Cheryl just mentioned, my own journey as an entrepreneur, where I had to go out and raise all the capital for the company I started, which was focused on creating access to viable, responsible financial products in a space where credit and capital was incredibly scarce. And that meant capital was the raw material, that was the input, capital was the output, it was what we were creating, and capital was the fuel for us to be able to continue going. I needed capital at every stage of what I was doing. And I went out to go and find that capital and found it extremely difficult to go and raise. And I should caveat, raising capital is always hard. It is intended to be hard. If you go out and ask somebody, like, I am not kidding, I want you to give me $10 million, right? That's hard, right? That's hard for them to do it, and it's hard for you to ask that. And so I have no illusions that it is easy, but I do think that it is easier for some folks and is harder for others. And I want to address that imbalance. That was where philanthropy, I think, plays a really interesting and unusual role, where we spend a lot of our time championing the fantastic entrepreneurs and the fantastic actors that are changing and addressing the deeply entrenched social problems. But we also sit on piles of assets and are making investment decisions every day on the commercial side, on the other side of the balance sheet. And that is also an opportunity for us to have impact. There is being a limited partner in a fund like what Shauna's talking about, and finding those would-be fund managers that would like to make the allocations that she just described, but can't find the limited partners that are willing to do it. That is where philanthropy, with its mission orientation and with the understanding that our capital we should be thinking about our capital much more fungibly, that's where we can really make a difference. So paradoxically, after a long career in financial services, I am in philanthropy because of the finance aspect of it, and I'm one of the few leaders in philanthropy that has this long of a history in finance and can speak that language as well as speak the language of impact and lead on the program side as well.
Great. No, thank you. You really a breath of fresh air in our sector, and you're really guiding many of us. And I like this juxtaposition where Shauna and Marla were talking about private capital, Lisa, and you, through your audacious vision of eradicating poverty across Asia, really relying on social enterprises, you think about the role of government as a scale partner. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, I was actually in China, and one of the statistics about poverty eradication in Asia Pacific went down, no? In terms of absolute poverty because of China's contribution. What was interesting with my trip was that I found out when I went to the autonomous regions of China that the big role that social enterprises played has not been discussed. The government encouraged or had a massive program bringing youth back to their hometowns to become social entrepreneurs. And those social entrepreneurs actually were the ones who provided sustainable livelihoods to people in the rural areas, in these autonomous regions. So I think China has demonstrated that governments can play a role in eradicating poverty, yeah, if they only had the will. And what we're doing in the Philippines is trying to push government to enact a law and to put in place a program that would do poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship. No? Because I think for the past years, no, since we were set up in 2008 up to now, the social enterprises in the Philippines have risen from 30,000 to 200,000 now. But the most that we can do in terms of poverty reduction is to show models that work. For us to actually make those models become mainstream, we need government support. We need governments to invest in making sure that nobody is left behind. Yeah? So what we're asking government to do is to provide what we call hybrid financing, which is actually non-collateralized loans with a guarantee fund pool. So that, because most social enterprises, of course, are micro and small, no? And if they are micro and small, they don't have the collateral to actually borrow money. So non-collateralized loans with a guarantee fund pool is important. But social enterprises are also enabling the poor to become actors in the market, actors in the economy. And to do that, they need funds to capacitate the poor. And we cannot do that with profits, yeah? We need grants in order for us to enable the poor to become market actors, economic actors. So we're also asking government for tax incentives and tax breaks. We're also asking government to do procurement so that they actually buy their coffee from social enterprises and the like, yeah? So the role of governments cannot be overemphasized. I think if we are to make sure that poverty becomes history, of course, we're doing a lot of good work in relation to building models, but governments need to come on board in order for us to really eradicate poverty.
Well said. Well, okay. Well, Marla, after that really passionate rejoinder about government, we're all facing a unique set of challenges here in this country that are redounding.
Ours too.
Yeah, okay, we all are. So very curious how you, as the CEO of the Skoll Foundation, are really thinking about these massive funding cuts this year. How do you think about your portfolio, opportunity, challenge, glass half full, glass half empty? How are you thinking about it?
It's a great question, and I will say we are actually not facing unique challenges. We are facing challenges that exist all over the world. And
Yes, fair.
I think we lose that and think that the United States is exempt, right? We are not exempt. We are, just like every other country, have gone through periods of time where you have to engage your government differently and understand what that means. We don't really have that muscle, right? Because we have not sort of had to confront it in this way in a while. And it's a muscle we are building. And I think we are sort of in the beginning stages of figuring out, like, we're gonna have to tackle this, right? And that's where this is headed, what I'm hoping where it's headed. And at the same time, we all have to contend with all the ways that funding has been withdrawn, in particular from the kinds of organizations that we have funded and have had long relationships with at the Skoll Foundation. One of the ways that we've stepped in is we created a specific pot of funding. We're calling it a pivot fund. And the idea is we believe the entrepreneurs in our portfolio have the resilience and the creativity to learn how to operate with a very different source of funding and with a very different business model and structure for themselves. That means we're not providing you with a standard grant for you to live long enough to go and scrap for the remaining grants with everybody else. We are funding flexibly quickly so that you can go and understand how you might earn some revenue, or understand how you might fund from a different geography, or find a corporate partnership that might be of interest, or find another part of the public sector. I thought Lisa's comments were really powerful on the importance of the public sector. That does not need to be limited to just that specific entity. Finding local government, finding your state government, those are all other avenues. And those are things that take time, though, and making sure that the organizations have the space and the time to be able to do that reinvention and do that pivoting, which is not limited to the commercial sector. I think, and I'm sure, Shauna, you hear all the time, people talk about pivoting much more readily and much more commonly in commercial ventures. But that's true in social ventures as well, and that's one of the ways that we stepped up to meet this moment. That said, I have no illusions. I don't think anybody should. We are not standing in for the withdrawal of sovereign funding, right? That is a bridge too far, right? It's not the idea. So that means that this sector is also going to have to change, right? Like, it can't stay the way that it was.
Well said. And then I wanted, that raises for me, how are you thinking about this moment? You know, we often say when this country gets a cold, folks who look like us get the flu, right? So we feel the effects sooner, more deeply. And you work with underrepresented founders. So how are you thinking about this moment, especially the support you provide?
Thank you for that question, Cheryl. I really think about the opportunity in this moment. This disruption is also opportunity. These systems were not built for us. They're doing exactly what they were supposed to do. And we now have an opportunity to build them differently, quickly, and will stand where we believe our grandchildren should have when it comes to access, freedom, and opportunity. I believe that our ancestors, all of our ancestors, knew this moment would come, and we are ready. I tell people often that know me well, I'm always somewhere. I said I live in Boston or on a plane, and I say, I am tired, but my ancestors are not. So when I show up with a nice smile and maybe a puffy dress, you know, it's because it's something more than just what I can humanly do. I believe this is the ultimate call to action for all of us. And it transcends all the lines, political, racial, gender. This is our moment. Our grandparents did all the things to get us here. Our great-grandparents did all the things to imagine a world where we would sit on this stage and talk about the future. And now we are here. And so at Camelback, we are investing more. We are naming more entrepreneurs who are doing incredible work. We are holding our current entrepreneurs close. We are helping them become stronger operators, because you have to be an operator right now. AI means most people have the general knowledge. They can just 2 seconds, they have it. So what's uniquely positions you to do the work in your community? And so I think we are in this opportune time to change the world today for tomorrow. So I am energized and I am focused. I am not distracted.
Wow. Well, I'm just, I'm a little choked up. I mean, you said it all. I'm such a Debbie Downer, but I'm stoked. I'm like, thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Ms. Shauna. That so beautifully said, and thank you for helping us keep our eye on the prize. So we've talked about capacity, talked about capital. Lisa, you have talked about in your remarks both the knowledge work you do, the research. That's all vital to building this ecosystem. Can you talk about how you think that those additionalities have helped improve and enhance the ecosystem of social enterprise in the Philippines and beyond?
Yeah, we do a lot of research that's actually useful for practitioners, resource institutions, and governments. For example, the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Bill that is pending in Congress in the Philippines was the product of research that we did to come up with a stakeholders version that we actually formulated during a conference. And that bill is what we are lobbying in Congress. No? So it's a stakeholders bill and not just a bill that was thought of by some policymaker. Yeah. The other things that we do is that we actually do a lot of case studies on best practices of social enterprises. And these are very important because case studies of best practices actually serve as source of learning for communities of practice of social enterprises all over Asia. And at the moment, we're also trying to impact on the world. One of the things that we do is that we create benchmarks for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains. We did a research in 4 countries, in Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand, and we came up with a set of benchmarks of how it is to be a transformational partner to small producers and to be enablers of women in agricultural value chains. And we piloted that in these countries, and we're now rolling it out. We have scorecards for this, so that if you are a social enterprise, you are a small and medium enterprise, or you're a corporate agribusiness, or a program holder for agricultural value chain programs, we have scorecards that could help with the planning, monitoring, evaluation, and learning for you to become more transformational partners to women and men small-scale producers. Yeah? We also have this research that we're doing on the social impact as well as the cost-effectiveness of community-centered connectivity initiatives. These are social enterprises in the digital industry. They bring connectivity, physical connectivity, and also enable communities to use the internet in ways that would transform their lives. Yeah? So, for example, in the Philippines, where we're trying to promote community-centered connectivity initiatives, we're assisting farmers to use the internet so that they can improve their productivity, incomes, and make their value chains more efficient. So, what we're trying to do now is to create a specific measure of social impact, so that it's not just about how many people they reach, yeah, but how the way that they're affecting people's lives, as well as that they are cost-effective in bridging the digital divide. And we are actually wanting to roll this out so that it becomes a global instrument for community-centered connectivity initiatives, because we're partnered with the Association of Progressive Communications, which is promoting community-centered connectivity initiatives all over the world. So we're doing those kinds of research that help governments, resource institutions, and also practitioners, of course.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. To you, Shauna, one of the things that I so admire, many things about Camelback Ventures, is the way that you not only work with underrepresented founders, but you take funders on a journey as well.
Yes,
Will you
yes.
say just a little bit about that in this
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah, so we also recognize to help founders, we have to also improve the ecosystem they're working in. So helping funders change their mindset around giving to entrepreneurs of color and women. So we do that through professional development, and now we've actually connected with a blueprint. So we're bringing together people who already know this is good work to do and ensure that they come together for a collective to move more dollars to entrepreneurs of color and women in education and in technology. So it's mindset change.
Give us quickly 1 or 2 examples, like what was an aha moment for a couple of your donors?
I mean, I think what it was is people didn't recognize, when you look at your portfolio, right? It's like, how many people who are you funding? And people fund who they know. So we are creating opportunities for people to know more entrepreneurs of color. We bring them together for dinner, for happy hours, for conversations, and we have them have real conversation with them in training. And then when you look at your portfolio, you see that shift happen over time, that actually now, instead of only 20% of your portfolio comes from those communities, now it's 30, now it's 50, now it's 60. So we have to be in relationship with each other.
That's well said. It seems so simple, but no, that's really profound. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so my time on stage started with 2 amazing CEOs, Sandra and Salma. You see a ton of extraordinary social innovators, amazing leaders doing amazingly innovative work. Give us a couple of examples that really blow you away.
Well, thank you for this, and I know we're running low on time, so we'll keep it short. I'll talk about one in our portfolio that's been in our portfolio for a long period of time, called the 1 Acre Fund. The 1 Acre Fund provides support services for smallholder farmers on the African continent. That includes everything from increasing crop yields through better farming practices, access to fertilizer, better seeds, know-how, technical training, its connection to supply chains, market power in negotiating deals. Their work since 2010, so they've been in our portfolio for 15 years, has led to $430 million of incremental profit for farmers, 40% increase in crop yields, and the development of a model that is being widely used across the continent. So it's an example of what long-term commitment to a problem and addressing that problem from a variety of different angles and sticking with it and grappling with it over extended periods of time leads to profound systematic change.
Indeed, no, I appreciate you shouting out Andrew and One Acre Fund. It really is an extraordinary model, and thank you so much for your mezzanine level support. All right, again, we're gonna squeeze every little second out of this session. Lightning round. Give us one or two things you'd like us to take away from this session, and I'll go this way. Shauna, last thoughts.
The time is now. Be bold. Don't hold back. Be bold.
Well said. Okay, how about you, Lisa?
I think it's a matter of, it's not only scale of impact that matters, but also the depth of impact. And I think social entrepreneurs are addressing both.
Okay, these women are dropping knowledge, Marla. Okay, how are you going to bring us home? What do you have to say?
No pressure. I think I'll echo one of the phrases I heard earlier, which is the local is the global. Do work where you are. It will lead to work where we all are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Join me in another round for Shauna, for Lisa, for Marla. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, directive, please make your way to the main stage ballroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today. We ask that you clear the room as we prepare for the next session.